Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Von Manor, where Roger and I have returned for just a little update video today. Just gotta update some things, right, Roger? Just some updates for some things I've gotta catch up on. There are a couple things I need to catch up on. And I did get a pile of stuff in the mail, so we'll talk about that. But first, Roger, the things I need to catch up on. Let's catch up on that stuff. So, longtime viewers of my channel know that I've done this a couple times where I read Superman every day, and then there's some day I miss reading Superman, and then I just put Superman down for a while. Well, that was unkind, because last time I left Superman in outer space. You don't want to leave Superman in outer space, so it's been a few weeks, I think, since I've read Superman. There was a day where I just couldn't read Superman, and then I just thought, well, I'll shelve this project for a while. But we can't leave Superman in the middle of an omnibus in outer space. We have to see Superman come home. So I will be starting to do the reading Superman every day, probably on Sunday. Sunday, that's a good day for comics. So this Sunday, I'll be starting to read once again Superman every day. Where did I leave off on this gigantic omnibus? It was Adventures of Superman. Yeah, Adventures of Superman, Phantoms of the Past. He's still out in space. Lex Luthor is back at home causing trouble. So yeah, I'm going to be getting back to this. Superman's fun, I miss him. So yes, this Sunday, I will start doing that again. But the big vampire in the room, of course, is Varney the vampire. So I did leave Varney stranded as well. So I was reading Varney the vampire, and I'm on the second volume of the 2-volume set of Varney. This is from Pulplit Productions, this edition. And I did leave off with Varney the vampire, the greatest, probably the greatest, or at least the most famous Penny Dreadful of all. And I thought, getting back to Varney, the way I was reading it, I was just reading a little bit of Varney here and there, and then I was reading everything else I was reading. And I was thinking, that makes finishing this gigantic book, and it is gigantic. It's even bigger than it looks because it's all double-columned. This ran a long time, Varney. And I thought, I should just find a time, just sit down and read the rest of it. Just read the rest of it. But there's a problem with that. There's a problem with that, Roger. And the problem with that is this thing, the 500 book challenge, which I really, really want to keep the momentum on. And nothing squashes the momentum of anything like Varney the Vampire. So I want to keep the momentum up on my 500 book challenge. This is the high class paper tablet that I'm keeping track on. 500 book challenge, of course, the challenge where I have to read 500 books that I own before I'll buy any new ones. And I am on, what number am I at? I'm at 311. I just finished book 311 yesterday, which was this book. This is The Last Planet by Andre Norton. I'll talk more about that on my weekend or my weekly. It'll be weekly. It'll probably be on Monday. I'll talk more about that on my reading report, which will probably be on Monday. But it's fantastic. It's even better than that cover illustration. As great as that is, the book was even better than that. So I'll talk about that. This was number 311. And tonight, I'm going to be starting this. I can't start it this morning because I'm filming this. So yeah, tonight I'll probably start The Werewolf of Ponkert by H. Warner Munn, which this is a book. I bought this probably when I was, I don't even remember, 18, 19. I have no idea how old I was. But it was a long time ago, and I read it that long ago. So I'm going to give this another read. H. Warner Munn, who wrote this, and a whole bunch of other werewolf stories. And recently I've read some H. Warner Munn, and I've really enjoyed his stuff. So I'm anxious to get back to this. So yeah, probably start that tonight. But where does that leave Varney? Where does it leave Varney? So I'm probably going to be doing the same thing I did before, which is just read a little bit here and there. It will take forever to finish. But you know, Varney the Vampire ran forever as a as a Penny Dreadful. So it kind of suits it, really. If I did not have the 500 book challenge going on, then I would just read it, you know, because then it wouldn't matter. But I do, and I want to try to get through 2 books a week is good. I want to try to at least get 2 books a week read, which means they can't be giant books like Varney. They have to be more like this, just because of all of the demands on my time and all the other stuff I read and do. So 2 books a week is good. 3 is better when I can manage it. I at least want to read 1 book a week if I can do it. There's a book coming up next month for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. Was it Amu? I think it's Amu by Herman Melville, which is not a short book. So I do have that in the future. So Varney, I have to figure out when and how I'm going to read Varney, but I do have to start picking up Varney again, which I'll probably start tomorrow at some point. I will give you updates on Varney's latest adventures as I go through it. So far, Varney the Vampire, I'm over halfway through. Varney has been short on the vampire thrills. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of Varney disguising himself as other people, Varney in disguise, causing trouble, Varney ripping off a family of money and stuff like that. But as far as actual vampire stuff, there's some of that in here, but not a ton. This was early days for vampires. And at least I have this cool illustrated edition. It has all of the original illustrations to Varney, which tend to be really, really cool. So yeah, starting Varney, probably again tomorrow, but just here and there. Here and there, Roger, whenever I can squeeze it in. So that's the reading stuff. What's the stuff I got in the mail? Because I did get some stuff in the mail. I got the latest issue of Men's Adventure Quarterly, which the publishers kindly sent me. Men's Adventure, which is a genre which I missed completely, but is actually quite fun. I've been starting to read some of this stuff. So Men's Adventure Quarterly has all kinds of cool stuff in it. Has articles, a lot of artwork, and it has fiction from the Men's Adventure pulp magazines that lasted up through the 1970s. And it had some of the greatest covers you'll ever see. And this looks pretty cool. Yeah, so it does reprint a bunch of fiction as well as articles. Let me just flip through it and see some of the other stuff that's in here. Top 10 novels featuring femme fatales. That sounds like a booktube video right there. So that should be an interesting read. This looks really cool. Yeah, that looks awesome. So it's a quarterly magazine, and this is the latest issue. Men's Adventure Quarterly. Fatal Femmes. Featuring stories with gun mauls, black widows, pretty prisoners, kiss me killers, wicked wives, icy nymphs, and silk assassins. I had no idea that there were so many categories, Roger. Shows what I know. So yes, Men's Adventure Quarterly. That looks completely awesome. So I will check that out. But I did get a bunch of comic book stuff in the mail, Roger. This is at the point where some of my viewers will tune out. But I did get some comic book stuff. A friend of mine who every once in a while will send me Conan stuff, sent me the latest. This is actually really, really cool. This is the latest collection of Savage Sword of Conan, the new series from Titan. And that's a Neil Adams cover right there. And the new Savage Sword of Conan I've been very happy with. It's a worthy successor to the original Savage Sword of Conan, which was originally published by Marvel Comics for well into the 90s. And I have all of these now, I guess. Yeah, this is volume 3, so I have all 3 of them that have come out. And this has the fantastic story in it by Roy Thomas and Roberto de la Torre, which was simply awesome. Mark of the Beast. And yeah, these look great. The reprint quality on these is fantastic. So this will be awesome. I'm definitely going to be reading this. I mean, just the artwork is stunning. And it's really cool. And a couple of these issues I haven't read yet. I've been reading a lot of them digitally, but some of this stuff I haven't read yet. So I will catch up in this volume. So that was really nice to receive. And the same friend of mine also sent me this, which is a Solomon Kane graphic novel. This reprints the first 4 issues of Solomon Kane. I guess it was a limited series. So this whole thing was done by Patrick Zerker, who does all of the artwork and wrote the comic as well. And he does a fabulous job. I haven't read this yet, but I've flipped through it and the artwork is just stunning. So that looks great. I would love for there to be a ongoing series of Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane is, next to Conan, my favorite Robert E. Howard character by far. I love Solomon Kane. Great character. But I doubt that they could keep up the quality that you find in these 4 issues here. If they were doing a monthly book, they would probably have to do what they're doing with Conan and switch creative teams every few issues, or at least artists every few issues. But we'll see, maybe. But these 4 issues look fantastic, and so I'm definitely going. I missed them all. I haven't read any of these, so and I don't think I even realized this trade paperback had come out. That's how behind the times I am. So yeah, Solomon Kane. This is the Serpent Ring. The Serpent Ring. So I'll read that, catch up on that stuff. So that was really cool. Other stuff that came in, those of you who watch my channel know that for the 500 book challenge, I actually have 2 exceptions comic book wise. One is Epic Collections, the Fat Marvel reprint volumes of classic Marvel comics, because I collected those before the challenge started and I wasn't going to stop, because if you don't buy these when they come out, they can get really expensive, stupidly expensive. And then DC came out with DC Finest, which is their version of the Epic Collections, and so I get those as well. If I read them, they won't count for the 500 book challenge. So a lot of these are going to be waiting, but I do still get them. And the last couple weeks, I got some stuff. So let's talk about them. First, the Epic Collections. I got a few of these. A few of these have come in. And the first one is the Hulk. This is To Hunt the Hulk. This has Sal Buscema artwork. And Sal Buscema is probably my favorite Hulk artist. I think he's just great on this character. Yeah, this looks to be some cool stuff. This has stories from 1980 and 1981. It feels like it's been a long time since Marvel's published a Hulk Epic Collection. I'm not sure why that is, or if it just feels that way, but it feels like it's been a long time since I've gotten a Hulk Epic Collection. But here we go. It's the Hulk, and this is volume 10. The Epic Collections are not published chronologically. They skip around a lot. Although now the gaps are starting to be filled in. These things have been published for a long time now. And so finally we're getting to some good stuff in some of these Epic Collections, and this looks like some good stuff. I mean, they've always published good stuff, but now we're getting like the John Byrne run on Fantastic Four, and Walter Simonson on Thor, and Frank Miller on Daredevil. All that stuff that they've held off doing Epic Collections for so long, now they're doing them. And this is not one of those, but it's still pretty cool. It's cooler than this next thing, which is Doctor Strange. This is Strangers Among Us. And this is 1990s Doctor Strange. This actually leads into my least favorite period of Doctor Strange. Let's see if when Doctor Strange gets his silly outfit. Yeah. See right there. There's Doctor Strange at the end of this epic collection. But a lot of these actually I haven't read, so I can't really comment. But yeah, this is Doctor Strange. This is volume 12. This has stuff from 1994 to 1995. Which at the time in the mid-90s were a rough time for Marvel. Some books were terrible, some were good. And I really don't remember this particular time in Doctor Strange. I know it got kind of lame right after this, to me. But a lot of the stuff in here, I don't know that I've read, so I really can't judge it, honestly. But Doctor Strange from the mid-90s, this is kind of an interesting thing. So they did an epic collection for Doctor Doom. This is Doctor Doom Volume 1, with stories from 1962 to 69. So it was basically Doctor Doom's first decade. It's interesting that they would do an epic collection on Doctor Doom, the evil villain from the Fantastic Four, who later showed up in all the other Marvel comics, because he is a great villain. I suspect they did it because Doctor Doom features heavily in the next Avengers movie, I have heard. So I guess they're like, hey, Doctor Doom, go see that movie. Here's Doctor Doom. This is cool. It has all of Doctor Doom's villainy published chronologically. All the Fantastic Four stories. And here's a Spider-Man appearance. The only problem with this, though, is most of this, if you collect the other epic collections of major Marvel superheroes, you have all of this stuff. This is mostly Fantastic Four, which means I just read most of this stuff. There is, I think, one story at the end somewhere, which was, Marvel Superheroes Presents Doctor Doom. That would have made a good cover for this epic collection. I don't know why they didn't use that. So you have that, but most of this stuff in here is from Fantastic Four, and there's some stuff from Spider-Man, an issue of Spider-Man, and there's an issue or two of the Avengers, that kind of thing. So you probably have all of that stuff already if you collect this stuff. But still, a cool collection if you just want to sit around and read nothing but Doctor Doom stories. So there you go, Doctor Doom. And then another Marvel epic collection before we get to the DC Finest. This is Micronauts. This is volume 3. There is some cool stuff in here. The Micronauts were, they're a toy from Hasbro, I think. They were a toy back in the day. And Marvel Comics inexplicably has a really good track record doing comic books about toys. And the Micronauts was actually a really good comic book. And finally, they've gotten the license again to reprint the Micronauts. And this is the third volume of Micronauts, which has stories from 1981 to 1983. I don't remember how long the Micronauts were published by Marvel. I honestly can't remember. I remember I read it for a while, and then I stopped reading it and read other stuff. There was a point where I put Micronauts down. I know, it's shocking, Roger, but I did. But yeah, this has stuff through the 80s, or into the 80s. I think it started in the 70s, right? I have to check. Anyway, Micronauts, Volume 3. That's pretty cool. Now we get to the DC Finest stuff. I have 2 DC Finest volumes that came in since I last talked about this stuff. And one is really, really cool, and I've been looking forward to. And one is just really strange. It's kind of interesting to me that this was published. And this is Super Friends. It's Super Friends. This is the Fury of the Super Friends. And this must have come out in the mid-70s. It did. I never bought any Super Friends comics. And I didn't even know, or maybe I just forgot that Super Friends comics were ever published. Super Friends, of course, is the Justice League. But on in the Saturday morning cartoons, they were called the Super Friends. And I did watch that cartoon when I was a little kid, but I never got the comic books. And they published a lot of Super Friends comic books. There they are, the Super Friends. And so it's interesting to me that DC Finest decided to reprint these stories. It'll be fun to check out because like I said, I've never read any of this stuff. It's just the Justice League only, the Super Friends version. And that's one of the great things about the DC Finest series. They're reprinting all kinds of stuff. I don't know that these have ever been reprinted. I'd be kind of surprised if they had been. But here they are, the Super Friends in their own gigantic volume. How long is this? It's like a 500-page volume full of Super Friends. So there you go. But the really cool thing, the thing I was really looking forward to, is this. This is DC Finest War. War! The Big Five arrive. And as it says on the back, January 1957. Although more than a decade has passed since the end of World War II, the American public still yearns for tales of combat, bravery, and heroism in the face of insurmountable odds. With the acquisition of the Quality Comics catalog, DC establishes itself as the war comics publisher with the Big Five war titles: Our Army at War, Our Fighting Forces, All-American Man of War, GI Combat, and Star Spangled War Stories. And Black Hawk as well is in here, I believe. So, yeah, a bunch of cool stories in here. There's Black Hawk in here. Yeah, Black Hawk's in here as well. So, this has a bunch of really cool stuff from the 50s. A lot of this stuff I've never read unless they were reprinted in the DC War Comics of the 1970s and early 80s. That was the stuff I remember reading when I was a kid. But yeah, DC did great with war comics. And these are some of their earliest war comics. And so this is amazing. This is amazing to get. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. Most of which I've never read. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this volume whenever the heck I can get to it. But yeah, this looks great. Has some Joe Kubert stuff in here. Some of the first war stuff he did for DC. That was the original cover there for Army at War. Our Army at War. So yeah, this looks awesome. And it's a good sized volume too. So this looks like it's going to be fantastic. War comics. I've always liked war comics. So War, the Big Five arrive. Hopefully DC will continue this line of comics. We will see this DC Finest line because I would love to get more war comics. So there you go. I think that's everything I needed to catch up on. I will catch you next time.